YouTube? So after a lot of tinkering, today I'm going to bring you the video of how to optimize and change the endgame instack setup completely. I do believe that Instacker in its current form with the Squire dual wielded is probably one of the strongest endgame builds in the game if you fully optimize it. And it is actually quite crazy because Instacker has been out for so long, it's been considered a pretty solved build. And I did make a statement that I believe that Instacker will be one of the best builds in 3.16 due to the mastery changes, but at first I thought it wouldn't be possible to fix the defenses, but after a lot of tinkering, I do think the defenses are fixed. The damage is almost doubled on the top POENINJA profile. So if you go to a top T POENINJA profile, you see someone have 14 million KB, the KB damage will be roughly 28 to 30 million. If you see someone with 100 million power siphon, if you use this tech, you will have around 180 million power siphon. I'll showcase it on some pobs. But basically, the tech is that you use an 8-link wand and you weapon swap it with Squire on both offhands, or both main hand and offhand. So you have 2 mirrored wands and 2 Squires. And even though it seems like it's cringe, PoE is about trying to optimize your character, right? And trying to find the most end game character possible. And for some people, this is either an aspiration, or some people just like looking at it and seeing what people can come up with a lot of currency. But the fact of the matter is, most of the people who play Instackers are extremely rich. There's people who mirror like large cluster jewels. There are people who mirror like 2 rings. And the list just goes on and on. And in the end, this variant is probably more efficient currency-wise to just mirror 2 wands and get 2 Squires, 2 mirror wands and 2 Squires, and then to forego mirroring the other pieces. Because I know a lot of people mirror large clusters and stuff like that. It will give you a lot more benefit to just mirror 2 of these wands and then get 2 Squires, have the weapon swap, and you will be doing more damage than most of the mirror profiles out there currently without investing into having every single piece of gear mirrored. So I do believe also another thing to be learned is, which I'll be talking about, is how OP Vengeant Cascade is. I don't really think that a lot of people utilize it while having Hydrosphere Spellslinger set up. And I'm going to demonstrate some Mavens with and without it. And even though the damage is really high on this setup, and it's nearly like 160, 180 mil, you will still see a drastic difference in like Maven kill speed for for having Vengeant Cascade up. And lastly, the end goal of this character is to do Simulacrum wave 30 with just KB. I do believe the damage will go high enough with enough gear, because right now my character is at 1732 in. It should be around like 2.1k in or 2.2k in, I think, at the end. But basically, Simulacrum, I am already almost at the threshold of killing the bosses with Monster Life with KB. So I'm going to showcase a few another wave 30 with just using KB. Now, lastly, I do think that this is the best Simulacrum wave 30 farmer in terms of getting consistent rewards with the most chill playstyle possible. You can pretty much just stand in the corner, hold it down, stand in your sigil of power, and pretty much you're able to just AFK. Well, not AFK, but you're pretty much able to get 6 rewards or even 7 almost effortlessly on almost any layout. So let's go straight into the gear and what I've actually made for changes, because I think I did change a few things up since my last video. So Kraken Spell is the one. This is the better version of the 2. So my weapon swap has Dire Call. The main difference, as I said before, is that one has Onslaught, the other one has faster attacks, and one has Lightning Penetration, and one has Elemental Damage of attacks. So Kraken Spell is probably like a 10 to 15% damage increase over Dire Call. So I do believe that in any setup, you always want to put the KB in the better wand if you do have 2 different wands, which probably will never happen for any of you. Now for KB, we're using Awaken Elemental Damage of attacks, greater multiple projectiles, Awaken added lightning damage, damage on full life, and Divergent Inspiration. A cool tech to note is that Divergent Inspiration, 48% reduced mana cost. You have a Mage Blow with 25% reduced mana cost of skills. And what do you guys think the mana cost will actually be? It's actually 6 mana. And there's also a Phantasmal Sigil of Power out there that reduces your mana cost. So you could have 0 mana cost KB theoretically, while you stand inside of the Sigil of Power. Now, the reason why we don't do this is because I kind of still want to spend some mana to increase the Sigil of Power's stages, but I have Vortex on left click to spend mana at the same time. And it also applies a chill. Another thing you could do is perhaps with the Vortex chill, you could also apply a curse. But currently, I have curse on hit with LE weakness and curse on hit with conductivity. And I do believe that being able to apply the curse to every single like mob, even white mobs while clearing, is a pretty big benefit. But I might look into having another curse like punishment or something on my Vortex setup. Now, next we have this helm. I do think that Berserk effect is the best for just doing, what's it called, simulacrums. And probably the best in mapping in general. You never really need the extra damage from the Power Siphon to additional projectiles. And Berserk effect also helps out your Power Siphon damage when you have the Rage. Now, the big thing about this helm, however, is that Socket of Skill Gems get 90% cost and reservation multiplier. And without it, we can't really run all our auras. As you can see here, with all our auras on, we're at 54 mana. So we can't really drop this helm implicit. So ideally, I think endgame, you want Socket of Skill Gems and +1 Power Siphon or Power Charge. But you probably will need to buy the Berserk effect enchant, and that you need to find a lab runner and ask them to run the Crown of Eyes for you until they get Berserk effect. Now, this amulet is the same as before. I'm still using Vengeant Cascade, which I believe blows Tranquility out of the water. And here's a Squire, nothing really too special about it, no corrupt. This one here is corrupted with 8% quality and 5% block. Pretty good. So here we have the chest piece. This is probably one of the other sources to upgrade. Now, a lot of people wonder if you should mirror a chest piece and how much of an impact having 55 INT is on the suffix. Fact of the matter is, if you put this chest into POB, it gives me around a 2.5% damage increase. I mean, the mirror chest with 55 INT. So you can see here that mirroring a chest piece for an INT stacker is generally not a great idea. Like, while you gain 2.5% DPS on the chest piece and you get some survivability, you can pick up a chest piece like this for 30-40x, and then you can mirror a wand and get an insane damage boost instead. So these two rings are still the same, conductivity and percent int ring. So the big change actually is on the boots. So these boots here, I finally was able to craft it with cannot be chilled. I decided to recraft the prefixes. I did suffixes cannot be changed, reforged crit until I got elusive. Then I crafted on suffixes cannot be changed again, did Ashling, and I won the gamble and I decided to craft on cannot be frozen. The important part about this is that if you get cannot be frozen and cannot be chilled, on the boots, you don't need to run Soul of the Brine King anymore since we already have stun immunity. So this allows us to take Soul of Lunaris, which actually increases our physical damage reduction next to a lot of mobs. It gives us 10% chance to avoid projectiles, and it gives us 6% reduced elemental damage taken, which is actually pretty crazy. Now, I'm using Soul of Tukuhama because I want the physical damage reduction when I'm standing still. So this actually gives me 27% physical damage reduction. And then with power charges up, I'm pretty much at like 30 to 40% physical damage reduction, which actually helps out a lot in terms of surviving a simulacrum. As you can see here, I've been leveling in simulacrums. I'm almost halfway through 95. And I've actually done a couple deathless simulacrums back to back. Now, in terms of my 6-link setup in my chest, I actually did decide to change this. I'm running Spellslinger, Discipline, Hydrosphere, Enlighten, Precision, and Warlord's Mark. So the reason we run Warlord's Mark instead of Sniper's Mark is I believe that Warlord's Mark just lends itself to a much better playstyle in terms of simulacrum and just mapping in general. It gives you the endurance charge so you don't get one-shotted because you get endurance charge on hit. So your cast when damage taken in Mortal Call will end up saving you. So these are the little changes that we made to fix the survivability of the build and able to pull off deathless simulacrums. So Warlord's Mark gives you the endurance charges, and it also gives you an insane amount of rage. We're using Precision now because I got a new Watcher's Eye, which is Discipline on hit, 8% chance to evade attack hits, and 14% attack speed while affected by Precision. So I just decided to throw in level 1 Precision just to trigger the Watcher's Eye mod. And Next, we also decided to run Tempest Shield. Now, I swapped over the Discipline from the Helm, and even though it's a higher reservation aura, and the Helm does make the auras cost less mana than having a level 5 Enlighten, Enlighten does get boosted by 1 level from the chess piece. So Discipline gets +1 also from the Intelligence gems, so we get a level 22 Discipline, which actually boosts our ES a little bit. And then lastly, I added in Tempest Shield. Now, Tempest Shield is noteworthy because it gives us immunity to shock. And it turns out that I was dying to shock most of the times in Simulacrum. And most importantly, it also gives us 26% chance to block spell damage. So if we end up taking these nodes over here, and I will take these once I'm higher level, we end up having 32% spell block and having 30% block, which is actually a pretty decent form of elemental mitigation, especially when there's a lot of elemental damage incoming, or spell damage, elemental spell damage incoming. So with these changes and just having Grace and popping Vol Grace when Kosis comes up, the build feels a lot safer. And the big problem with this build at this point is we're shock immune, we're chill immune, and we're freeze immune. But in simulacrums, you can get brittle on you and you can die because you get 100%, because the enemies pretty much crit you, right? If you roll the crit multi-mod and crit chance, so that's actually pretty important. So what you could do is you could take this crit mastery for reduced crit damage taken from critical strikes, and that's something that you could do to mitigate it. And there might be some Scourge mod that makes you take less crit damage. So I feel like with that change, the build will be pretty immortal. And once you get large clusters with ES on them, well, this one here has 35% effect, 5 ES. This one here has 35%, 8 and 3 attributes, no ES. So this here will be a huge source of energy shield. And these ones here can also have energy shield. So this one has armor instead of energy shield. This one has percent damage instead of energy shield. And I bought this one yesterday, 35%, 9 ES, 7 int for all attributes. And this is what was able to bump me up to around 8.5k ES. So when you get to level 100 and you have all your points, the build will be like 10.5k-ish ES, I think, with perfect gear and also a mirror chest. So that's pretty much the end game of the build, and the build is relatively tanky. So here's the POB. So it's actually astonishing to me that you can have this type of defenses on the instacker while also having really high damage with Power Siphon. So a cold damage EHP is higher because we're running a Sapphire Flask. The Fizz damage reduction is kind of fixed at least because we have Grace, we have block chance, and we have 27% physical damage reduction. And this helps out with Immortal Call. But basically, I believe that this is probably the best variant of the instacker. Not only is the defense is fixed, but the damage will roughly be like, ends up probably being 50 to 60% higher than a mirror profile or the top profiles, purely because you're able to weapon swap the wands. And even though this seems like a very, very expensive way of building the character, PoE is about finding endgame builds and trying to find the best build possible. And I do believe that this is the best build possible for farming simulacrums because it's a range skill, and KB is incredible for clear. Oh yeah, lastly, I switched over my Diamond Flask from crit chance on the suffix to reduce mana cost. The reason being is that you do have a lot of dead casts, and this puts our Power Siphon at 4 mana and our Kinetic Blast at 6 mana, which is pretty crazy and completely negates the mana cost state of the 11 link. Now the main thing to note is you need Divergent Inspiration inside of the Squire, and that's how you get your mana cost to be almost none. But now let's talk about Vengeant Cascade and why it's so broken. So after this little bit, I'll showcase some bossing with Vengeant Cascade and no Vengeant Cascade. So the way Vengeant Cascade works is that it makes it so that attack projectiles return to you from final form. So what this means is that you put down a Hydrosphere, and you can choose to put down the Hydrosphere based on where your mouse cursor is. So if you put it right here, the Hydrosphere will be over here. So let's just say Alva is the boss, right? We put down the Hydrosphere. So if you have 1 pierce exactly, and the way we do this is we use this. So let's just say we have 1 pierce exactly, and this is what I run in my general setup for Simulacrum. You put down the Hydrosphere, and the way it works is it will pierce through the boss Alva, and it'll hit the Hydrosphere and it will return. But this only works if you have 1 pierce. So some people have like the pierce KB gloves, and it won't work because you will end up having, well, it will still work, but if you have more than one pierce, then it would not work. So here you can look at it. It says projectiles pierce one target, and when it says that is when you know it works. So you make sure to put down the Hydrosphere, and you can position it with where your cursor is, and then you will effectively deal double damage. Now I know some people are skeptical of it, but I did decide to do a demonstration with and without Vengeant Cascade on, just to test out what it looks like, and the difference is night and day. And even with this setup with like nearly 100 million DPS, you can clearly see the difference between like 100 and 180 or 200 million. It's actually less than double damage because instead of Tranquility, you have Vengeant Cascade as the anointment instead. But I believe Vengeant Cascade also helps out your KB clear, right? Because the projectiles will hit 3 mobs if you have 3 pierce. And if it hits a 4th mob, it'll return and deal double damage, essentially. So, extremely important to use Vengeant Cascade. I do think that even though it doesn't show up as tooltip damage on POENINJA and give you a higher damage, I do believe that it is incredibly important in making the INT Stacker viable at, I mean, it just should be used at all budget levels, because double damage with just having a Spellslinger Hydrosphere and having a different anoint is always going to be worth it. But now let's go see how much the 11 link wand will help out the top POENINJA profiles. So this is the #1 guy on POENINJA. Oh, this guy doesn't have KB, so let's do this guy here. So this guy here has 100 mil power siphon, 14 mil KB. So let's go see what this guy's damage will be with what's it called, with this new wand, the 11 link wand. And I do believe if you have an endgame build and you already have these wands, it would be very good to mirror it, if you possibly could. And 2 of them is insane. So let's see here. So let's take the wand we have in game, Control C it, and then copy and paste it into Path of Building. So now we have to add it to the build. So let's go see. So we need to put the item in our weapon, right? So let's just make it so this is Kinetic Blast in the gloves, right? So let's just make a pseudo, what's it called, 9 link here. So let's just find the highest damage. So Kinetic Blast as a 1 link inside of the new wand is already 5.9 million, right? So now we could just take links that will increase this. So we will use Awakened Elemental Focus like he does, Awakened Elemental Damage of Attack. So we can choose up to 6 links here. So now we have, so already 3 links is pretty close. So Power Charge on crit since he's an occultist. So with 4 links, it already beats out the damage by a lot. Then you need damage on full life. And then lastly, you need inspiration. So this is Divergent. So these ones will be on the shield. So they should be 28 quality, 28 quality, 28 quality. And then this should be 20 quality, 20 quality. Let's make this 21. And then this is 20 quality. So here you say it's 28.1 mil, right? But you can't use it as Zeri's reflection because you have to have the Squire as a shield. So what this means is that it goes down to roughly like 23 mil. So you can see here, this is an insane DPS upgrade. So with the Squire and being able to proc the spell damage passives, you end up with 25 million KB versus this guy's original setup, which is already pretty insane, which is 14 mil KB. So this person, by just dropping a Zeri's reflection, is able to increase his damage from 14 mil to 25 mil, which is an insane damage increase for. So you now might be wondering, what about the Power Siphon? How much more damage is the Power Siphon than the other one? So if we remember correctly, this guy's profile is 100 mil. So here I put in the Power Siphon link. So right now it already has the ones on the weapon itself, and we give it Awakened Elemental Focus. We put on Barrage, we put on Awakened Elemental Damage of Attacks, we put on Power Charge on crit and damage on full life. And you can see here we're at 167 million DPS when his original profile was 100 million. Now the big difference here is pretty much just swapping it over so we could go back to his original setup, which was with a Zeri's reflection, and it's at 100 mil. I think it's a little higher than what it shows, but originally it was at 100 mil. And all you did was you changed out the wand and you used this Squire instead. And it's at 167 mil. And this is pretty revolutionary in that these are top of the line profiles that have been fully min-maxed, and that this one item, this one wand, has increased people's damage by so much. And this will completely change how it works now. You might think it's just the damage, but it's not even just the damage. It's the fact that you free up an extra 6 link. You can use Enlighten 5 on your chest and run a lot more auras, and it's just completely game changing. It allows you to probably run another 25% aura if you build around it. And I do believe that this will be the future of INT stacking, and that people will actually rush to craft this wand in the next leagues instead of the regular INT stacking wand. The regular INT stacking wand, as we know it, is probably going to go the way of the dinosaur, as this wand is hard to craft, but at the beginning of the league, when there's more aug influences that remove non-influence and add influence, it is probably not that much harder to craft, and it will be exciting. I do think that this completely changes the game, and it might make INT stacking one of the best builds. Having that extra damage is huge. Like, people say you don't need the damage on INT stacker, but with the new aspirational content coming out, INT stacker's single target was definitely not up to snuff, especially on these profiles that are 16 mil, who don't have a clear skill, and they also don't even have berserk up all the time. So it's a lot of fake numbers. But Vengeant Cascade does fix the issue up a lot, and most importantly, the survivability is fixed. But let's go showcase some footage, the KB clear and wave 30 simulacrum, and also the difference of Vengeant Cascade and no Vengeant Cascade on Maven. Lower it will be without Vengeant Cascade. And maybe it won't be that much lower, but we'll see. But should look twice as slow. Right? It's literally twice as slow just because of Hydrosphere. It's just how OP Vengeant Cascade is. This thing has something to... Well, there's also the part that lightning has a huge range, but it's not exactly... Phase 2 is fast, yeah, but like I said, lightning has a huge range. That was faster with an Vengeant Cascade, or we'll see. This is probably like the most chill Maven thing ever. Mage Blood makes the memory game a lot easier too. The other thing, because it won't return anymore. Might have shot mirrored. Oh, just sell them and ask them to recraft it when you mirror it. Or I guess if you're gonna mirror anything, you probably mirror the wand at this point. That's actually so annoying that you can't fix it. It's Ashley. What the heck? Suppressed. It was too much of a meme. Too too much investment. It actually lowered your life pool a lot, so you sell. I did not sell the Berserker yet.
I'm a broken home. I gave you all the bricks that I own and know. I'm letting go. I'm breaking these walls down, breaking these walls
No mobs. Oh, you just need to save Ball Lightning Strike for the last phase.
Yeah, what's the point in us if I never know? If you're gonna leave, I'ma let you go.
What? Oh my god. What's the fee on a new one?
I'm tired of the pain. Go away.
Is that the fee of the sword too? Oh shit. Yeah, I mean, you need to just, I mean, it's a mechanic fight though, that's the thing. We did it! Oh my goodness, finally! After 10 years of trying this. Out of a skill. That could work, I mean, Freeze is very good in Delve. Yeah, so buy a mirror on Sunday, and then wake up richer.
Yeah, I guess I had my bad days, but it doesn't mean I lost my styling. Where were you when my heart was on the ground?
Shit.
I thought time would prove that you would stick around. I guess time stands still, a king without his crown. Now I'm breaking, you're faking.
Oh, I actually killed them both with just KB because they stood next to each other. 7 reward layers. Oh my. Jeez. The XP won't be cheaper if you want it back. Fat loot. Running an 8-link one. Yeah, I'm running the 8-link one. Anyhow, I hope everyone enjoyed this video. I do believe that this will be the new future of INT Stacking. It'll be fun to see how many people actually mirror it. Mirror 2 wands, run 2 squires. At least you guys will have some endgame goals, right? And most importantly, I do think that Mage Blood is pretty good in fixing the mana cost, and that was actually probably the biggest thing that got changed from using the Mage Blood. I do, however, think that if you're able to fix the defenses somehow, that not using a Mage Blood will give you the highest damage and highest ceiling. A percent int Headhunter will be insanely better in juice maps. And having an actual belt with percent int and like max int with Ashling will probably be absolutely crazy for DPS, probably like a 20-25% DPS gain. But I do think that Mage Blood is probably the best overall belt in terms of making your life easier, but there are other options even at the highest budget level. But hopefully everyone tries this out. If you can't afford mirroring the wands, it's definitely worth it. I mean, it's like a 60 to 80% damage increase over both your clear skills and your single target skill. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more mirrors, exalts, and voices than me, and see you next time. Bye.